Well, that was a pain in the ass. So here is our worn out wheel bearing. Now here's the shitty part. The flange and the bearing are one piece, but I got to get the hub out. So I'm going to use the vise and hammer, and we'll see. Maybe I can air hammer this out. Okay, all we did was I took an inner race from an old wheel bearing that was about the same as the inside diameter, or the hub size of the flange that goes through the bearing, right? So there's our old bearing. There's a step. Both of these are not the same size, so it's only a small amount that's actually pressed onto that bearing. So you can see the step right here. So it's only that much, so it really wasn't crazy tight. So all I did was I grabbed this housing in the vise, so then the flange, the hub flange was free, and then I just drove that down. So that's the old one. Here's our new one. We're going to have to now drive that in, but we do not want to load the rollers. Like, there's ball bearings on the inside of this, so we don't want to damage our brand new bearing. So we can only put force on the inner races. Right? So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use the back of the vise right here as a support, and then I'm going to find something that I can drive on that bearing race flange, and then I'll drive this down onto the vise. So anytime you're using the vise as an anvil, you want to close the jaws. It's nice and solid. Okay, let's go find our pieces. Alrighty, so here is a bearing race, another one, bigger one. So if I use the back side of that, it now will load the inner bearing race of the new bearing. So what I'm going to try is to see if I can open up the jaws of the vise wide enough so I can just clamp this, squeeze this all together with the vise. And I know I just kind of squeezed this, so it was, I just wound it in. I'm going to, before I do that, I'm going to take my 3-pound mini sludge here, and I'm just going to start the bearing, right? So I'm going to hold it sideways, so that way I have force across both sides. If I just kind of use it as a normal tapometer, then it's going to twist the bearing flange. I don't want to do that. I want to keep it as even as possible. So I'm just going to go across. And actually, this is working really easy. So I might just keep going this way. So that's gone a little bit. What I'm going to do is, that should be all kind of compressed enough, so I'm going to use the vise. Because I'm shaking all the stuff off my bench here. Okay. Beauty. Beauty. Would you look at that? So I will hold the bearing race in position here, so it will kind of be pressing on the bearing. So if you look at this, no pun, no joke here, I'm going to try and keep it flat. There we go. And then I can actually feel the movement as I tighten. Creaking is good because that's a sign of movement. Reposition my bearing here, and moved on me. There we go, lower down. There we go, no more movement, no more creaking. Bearing moves nice and free. We're home. All we got to do is clean the knuckle. Going to take a file if I caused any burrs or anything and trying to remove it or pry or anything like that. Going to sand out any of that corrosion in there so it's a nice even fit. And then just goes back together, tighten it up. Tickety-boo, yo. In case you're wondering the size of the pry bar, it's a 5-foot Mac Big FU pry bar. And I wasn't prying on the backing shield, I was actually prying on the screw or bolt that attaches the backing shield. So it was actually, that screws into the knuckle, so it's a nice solid anchor point, and just went in there, and that was all she wrote. Brute force and ignorance prevailed. Let's get this thing cleaned up. I'll show you what we're looking at. Okay, so what was tight was the inside bore, right? So you can see all that white corrosion. That's that galvanic corrosion. Galvanic corrosion is corrosion caused by dissimilar metals. So aluminum knuckle and a steel bearing flange. So I got to clean all that. And then, like, I kind of mangled this surface a tiny bit. Doesn't matter. I'm just going to take a file and then just flatten that out so that when I put it back together, it's sitting nice and flat on that steering knuckle. So, fun. Clean it up. Okay, so let's look. There we go, just a combination of flat file, round file, chipping, chiseling, and I'm just using my finger because I can feel where there's high spots of that corrosion left over. Nice and smooth. You'll notice I taped up the splines because of all this debris. I don't want that going into the spline, so this just helped me protect the splines and keep them nice and clean. So in that bore, I'm probably going to put a lick of grease so that it helps prevent this from happening in the future. Not that I want to do another bearing in the future. And we'll put the bearing back on, get it seated, tighten it up, and go back together. Okay, so I didn't have the camera on when I was torquing, but I don't know if you can see, but I marked the bolts at the top, and then I did the initial torque, and then it was 59 foot-pounds plus 90 degrees. So I just marked each of the bolts, did the base torque, and then I torqued to angle. And all I got to do is get the rotor back on, get the caliper back on, tighten the axle center bolt, and back together, put the wheel on, road test, done like dinner.